May 31st, 2002. Everything was going smoothly at the Pasay City bus terminal in Manila, Philippines. While many people were waiting to board on different bus routes, one particular family wouldn't have the opportunity to board their bus. A young mother named Salvacion Balala was waiting to board the bus route to Pampanga with her 4-year-old son, Dexter Balala. Out of nowhere, a man named Diomedes Talbo grabbed Dexter and held him hostage by holding a 10-inch double-bladed knife towards his neck. He shouted out that if anyone tried to stop him, he would kill the young boy. Not only was this an intense and adrenaline rush scene, but many were confused as to what the man's motives were. Reportedly, the man was screaming out the names of 2 individuals. One of them was named Lito Arreola, a former Philtranco bus driver, and the other man was Hihirson Alvarez, who was an Environment and Natural Resources Secretary. It was never confirmed as to why he yelled out their names, so instead, it was just suspected that he was just highly under the influence of drugs due to his weird speech and just strange behavior. Shortly after, the police would be contacted and they quickly arrived at the bus station. While this was all happening, live news coverage broadcasted the entire standoff with authorities surrounding Diomedes and Dexter. This wasn't necessarily the easiest thing to accomplish either, since the bus station was overly crowded with local residents, and so because of that, the police weren't able to fully block out the area. So this meant that no matter what, all the residents had to face this firsthand. Police officers attempted to calm down the man, but there was a big problem. Diomedes Talbo only spoke in Ilocano, in which none of the authorities were fluent in that language. One of the officers described Diomedes as being emotionally unstable. Adding on, he mentioned that anytime the officers and himself took a step closer to him, he would dig the knife deeper into Dexter's neck. Snipers were then ordered to take a shot at him, but this was extremely difficult and, honestly, a major risk. He was constantly moving, and if they missed one shot, there was a chance that they would hit Dexter instead. There was also the possibility that he would become even more agitated if something bad happened. It was at this moment that many believed that the child wasn't going to be rescued at all, until one of the investigators brought up an idea. As mentioned before, local news journalists and reporters were on standby, and when one of the investigators asked if any of them knew the language, one of the journalists explained that they spoke it. This was deemed to be a small sense of relief at first, since someone could finally talk to the man. But this eventually led to another problem. You see, even though the journalists could speak the language, they weren't trained to deal with a life-threatening situation like this. Think about it, they had zero knowledge on how to de-escalate a situation, and if at just any point they miscommunicate with the man, it could lead to a fatal mistake. Unfortunately, that was the case in the situation. It was never confirmed what the journalist explicitly said, but after a long 2-hour standoff, Diomedes Talbo became hyper-aggressive and repeatedly stabbed the boy up to 13 times before he was shot numerous times by the police. There was even some shooting him while he was lifelessly laying on the ground. And there were even some nearby residents who began stomping on his body, but the police officers told them to stop. Shockingly, it was determined that Dexter actually wasn't killed due to the stabbing. It was later revealed through Dexter's autopsy that he was accidentally shot 5 times, including one in the chest that ultimately ended his life. Investigators later determined the possible reason as to why Diomedes Talbo was so angry that very day. It was explained that his mother, Rosita, received a letter from her granddaughter saying that their uncle-in-law committed sexual activities towards her and her eldest sister. When Diomedes heard about this, he immediately left his home to rescue them and was given $30,000 in pesos from his mother as pocket money. And just a couple days later, he would then hold the young boy hostage. Unfortunately, there's no official reason to his cruel act. It's only been suggested that he did such an act out of pure anger from the situation surrounding his daughters, but why Dexter was the target will never be explained. After the tragedy, many shared their concern on what they just witnessed and were furious on how it was handled. The entire standoff was captured live on ABS-CBN, and while viewers from across the country were watching, many of them were calling the broadcast station questioning why Diomedes wasn't killed earlier. This later brought attention to the police's poor execution. Metro Manila Police Chief Deputy Director Edgardo Aglibay fired City Police Chief Eduardo de la Serna for 2 counts of gross negligence resulting in homicide. Eduardo explained that he didn't immediately order his men to fire because there was no threat and no imminent danger at the time. He was also one of the officers who allowed the journalist to speak to the man. As it turned out, it was later reported that there was no official ground commander and official negotiator at the scene, so this basically left Eduardo to take total control. Not only him, but 21 other policemen were charged with this as well. The men were ordered to complete a 20-day retraining course, but to ensure that no other officer makes the same fatal mistake. The entirety of the Pasay City police force were sent to be retrained. In the end, both Dexter's parents, Darius and Salvation, were obviously saddened by the death of their child, but surprisingly, they ended up forgiving Diomedes Talbo. When interviewed by ABS-CBN, Darius explained that if he were there, he would have done something. He later pointed out that he was concerned of how Diomedes easily slipped his knife through the station's security, with his final message being that he hopes that the security and police force improve. Let's go back to the 1980s in Las Vegas. Business is booming at the MGM Grand Hotel and Casino. It was just another typical Friday morning at the MGM Grand with around 500 people in residence. Those same people were expecting to indulge in one of the city's most popular attractions later that day in the evening and night. However, nothing would prepare them for what thousands were about to wake up to. At approximately 7:07 a.m. on Friday, November 21st, 1980, a fire began in a first-floor restaurant known as the Deli. The fire was first discovered during an early morning inspection before the restaurant was even opened by a crew supervisor. They noticed a flickering light in the distance, and when they approached it, it revealed to be a wall of flames. Later investigations revealed that the fire started inside the wall of the side stand located on the south wall of the deli. It was caused by an electrical ground fault from wiring that powered a compressor located under a pie case, which had been ignited hours before the supervisor noticed. Just minutes later at 7:19 a.m., the Clark County Fire Department arrived first on scene after receiving a call. By the time they showed up, the deli's power was out, and the fire only became larger. For extra precaution, a Metro Police helicopter pilot requested all available helicopters to arrive on scene. The firefighters positioned themselves at the north-facing entrance. There they had seen numerous guests and staff members who were stuck near an elevator bank. As they desperately tried to escape, another storm of fire went towards the firefighters as they tried to save them, which only ended up forcing them to evacuate. This was later spread into the casino, and in just a couple minutes, the casino was covered in flames and smoke. Now the thing about the MGM Grand Hotel was that they lacked a ton of safety precautions. There's a whole list of them, trust me, but I'm just going to talk about the main ones. To start, where the fire spread across the casino, no fire sprinklers were installed, nor were there any in the deli. And to make matters even worse, some of the guest rooms had none. So you're probably thinking, alright, so how does any public building get away with this? During the construction of the building, officials from the fire marshal and Clark County building inspectors insisted that every critical area in the building needed sprinklers for, well, you know, obvious reasons. MGM Grand officials didn't want to spend the extra money on it, so they came up with an idea. To compromise, MGM Grand officials stated that the deli would be open 24 hours a day, and if a fire were to ever occur, an employee would always be in the area to handle the fire using a portable fire extinguisher. So yeah, that's how they got away with that part, but it's so incredibly concerning how it was so easy for them to do that instead of just, you know, paying the large amount of fee that would benefit everyone. But here's a real issue. Just a couple years later, they changed the hours of the deli to close overnight due to poor business. So did that mean that they installed them after? No. It's even more saddening to hear that it would have costed approximately $192,000 for a full sprinkler system, which was surprisingly not too high considering how much money was spent in the construction of the building and how much profit they were making anyways. So instead, MGM installed only the minimum number of sprinklers required by the building code at the time. Let's talk about another faulty safety measurement. So when the fire was occurring, only the guests and staffs in the casino were the only ones who knew about it. It was reported that those in the upper level weren't aware because of an issue with the fire alarm system. The building did have one, but it was extremely out of date and not in the best condition, and it was explained that when the fire broke out, it actually disabled the system. This meant that the upper level guests and staff were only informed about the fire if they, looked outside their window, saw helicopters flying around, or heard the sheer panic from others, and by the time they learned that the fire was happening, it was already too late for some of them. Now, even though the fire didn't make its way to the upper level, the smoke did. Burning materials created toxic fumes and smoke, which made its way through the hotel tower via elevator and stairway shafts and seismic joints. On top of this, the air conditioning units didn't have smoke detectors either, so they kept running and running, and this led to smoke and carbon monoxide to circulate throughout the building. This gave the guests in the upper levels two options. Either they make their way downstairs using the elevators or stairwells, or hope that they can escape from their balcony. For those who tried to escape using the elevators and stairwells, they quickly learned that it wasn't in their best interest. The elevators were out of order due to the fire, and regarding the stairwells, they were built in a way so that the doors would automatically lock from the inside, which ultimately trapped those who used them. The other way to escape was out the balcony. Not only were firefighters helping by using their ladders, but nearby construction workers also assisted by using their scaffolding platforms to pick people up. The only problem was that the fire ladders were only able to reach the 9th floor exterior, which only led so many people to desperately try to escape. For example, some guests tried using their bed sheets to try to go down. Now those who were stuck at the higher levels and essentially stuck, decided to open their windows to get some fresh air, but all this really did was allow thicker smoke from the outside to come inside their room. The fire took roughly 1.5 hours to be completely extinguished. However, it took several more hours for all the rooms to be checked. Ultimately, a total of 85 people were killed, including 78 guests and 7 employees. A majority of the deaths occurred between the 19th to 26th floor, with the leading cause of deaths being from smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide poisoning. The aftermath of the disaster meant that the MGM Grand Hotel had to be rebuilt. Over an 8-month period, it was finally restored at a cost of $50 million. Due to public outrage and having to meet the new safety standards, the building reopened in July 1981 with numerous fire safety features in place. But this wasn't just because of the MGM Grand fire, but just 81 days later, another fire broke out at another hotel named the Las Vegas Hilton, which ended up with 8 casualties. This caused even more tighter restrictions on fire safety guidelines and codes. Because of this, a new Nevada law came into effect. It announced that all public buildings were required to have fire sprinklers, smoke detectors in both rooms and elevators, and exit maps in all hotel rooms. Regarding the MGM Grand, the reconstruction included more than 30,000 fire sprinklers, with at least 4 in most hotel rooms and an automatic fire alarm system. A 2-unit computer with a backup to monitor hundreds of locations throughout the MGM Grand Hotel. 8,000 speakers, including 1 in each room, were also added to allow fire safety instructions to be provided to guests in case of another fire outbreak. The entire air conditioning system was changed to prevent smoke from entering hotel rooms, and even large exhaust fans were added to get rid of fumes. Even with all the new modifications and safety measures, lawsuits were still thrown at the MGM Grand management. More than 1,350 legal claims were filed, with them seeking more than $2 billion in damages. In the end, reports revealed that 83 different building violations and errors of installation were the cause of the fire, and within a 3-year period, a settlement of $223 million was distributed to the victims of the fire. But for some reason, MGM never took responsibility for any sort of negligence.
And good to have our 3 players as well, starting right here with our friend, well, we're not friends yet, but I'm sure by the end of the show we will be, Matt Fenwick from Kansas City, Missouri.
On March 18th, 1998, an episode of Wheel of Fortune was aired, and in all honesty, it seemed like your average episode. However, this one featured a contestant who was known for the wrong reasons. At the time the episode aired, Matthew Fenwick stated that he was from Kansas City, studying for a doctorate in piano. During his spare time, he played a piano at his local church, since he didn't personally own one, and he planned on one day being able to compose and teach to others. But despite his humble and wholesome story, there was something else Matthew was hiding. At the time of his appearance, Matthew Fenwick was on the run after being accused of molesting 2 girls aged 8 and 10 years old. He was issued a warrant in November, just months prior to his appearance on the show, but local authorities weren't able to track him down until one of the girls noticed him when they were watching the episode. After the authorities were informed about Matthew Fenwick, He was arrested 2 days later and was kept in the Miami County Jail, in which his bond was set at $50,000. He was later charged with 2 felony counts of aggravated indecent liberties with a child less than 14. For his actions, Matthew Fenwick served 6 years of jail time before leaving on conditional release in 2004, and on August 14, 2007, his conviction was discharged. For the longest time, the episode would be removed from airing due to the sinister backstory behind Matthew. It was considered lost for a while, but it was later rediscovered by WheelFan82 back in October 2nd, 2020. What you're watching is a yearly monster truck event held in Red Bluff, California at the Tehama District Fairgrounds, known as the West Coast Monster Truck Nationals. It involves other monster trucks competing against each other in several racing and freestyle events. Many well-known drivers and the Monster Jam Association participated during these events, with one of them being Rob Nell. He was most notable for being named the mystery driver for the New World Order monster truck. The NWO made its debut in San Antonio, Texas on January 15, 2000. The reason why Rob Nell was given the persona as the mystery driver because at the time, Rob was never interviewed during any of his shows. Instead, Chad Fortune, a former monster truck driver, would be a spokesperson whenever an interviewer attempted to speak to him. However, his mystery persona wouldn't last that long, as Rob would reveal his identity in future events. Going back to the Red Bluff event, Rob Nell would drive the El Toro Loco truck. During the qualification rounds, drivers were put to the test to try and get the fastest time by racing through the course's obstacles. With this in mind, it meant that some would get themselves in dangerous situations, and that's exactly what happened to Rob. Unfortunately for him, the converter in his truck caused the transmission to explode. This sent debris from the transmission into the fuel lines and caused a massive eruption that led the truck into a raging fire. Rob struggled to release his safety harness to get out and was left strangling for several minutes while the fire was only getting larger. Eventually, the fire was extinguished and Rob would be rescued, but he still suffered from injury. Before being airlifted to the nearby hospital, he was in critical condition as he suffered from second-degree burns all over his body, as well as a broken elbow and numerous broken fingers. This incident put him out for the rest of the year, but he would make a comeback in mid-2005 to drive the Hot Wheels truck instead. Rob Nell carried on with his career until the end of 2006, with his last truck being the Bulldozer. The footage of the incident was never televised, as it wasn't hosted by Monster Jam, despite the event featuring many of its trucks. Only these images are available from the event that day, and chances are no footage will ever resurface. If you made it to this point of the video, I just want to thank you so much for watching and sticking along. It means a lot. As always, I'm super thankful for you guys for getting me to this point. I don't know, by the time I have this uploaded, I'll be at 70,000. If I do or if I don't, I'm still super grateful and just thankful for you guys. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well and taking care of yourself in all aspects. But yeah, I'm gonna end the video off now. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys watching have a great rest of your day. But before you leave, don't leave yet. I just want to let you know I truly mean that. I truly hope you, yes you, the person I'm pointing at to right now, have a great rest of your day. Alright, I'm gonna go now, but I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye for now.